Hello everyone, welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name is Gulveg and I'm super excited to be connecting with you today and to be discussing this new moon and solar eclipse in Aries. And it's a doozy. This new moon solar eclipse ain't plain. It's a hybrid eclipse, which basically means that depending on where on Earth that you are, will make a difference in how you experience this new moon, or sorry, this experience, this solar eclipse. So depending on where on the Earth you are, it may be a full eclipse, and for others, they may see it as a partial eclipse. And this difference in perspective, the last time that this happened was like 10 years ago. So this doesn't happen very often. And I do feel that it does have astrological significance for us, but I'm going to talk about that in a second because we first need to talk about the sun and moon because they are the heroes of this story for this particular eclipse and new moon. The new moon and the moon and the sun are on top of each other at 29 degrees in Aries, and they are conjunct Jupiter at 23 degrees in Aries. So Aries is what I often think of as the sovereign self. So it is the first sign in the zodiac. It is associated with a pioneering spirit, calculated risk-taking, independence, and the sovereign self. So, and then with Jupiter being in the mix, when things are conjunct, I look at it very similar to as in the tarot, where two cards, they come out together. And when that happens, I look at that as like those energies are basically like one card. In this particular case, with these planets being together and being conjunct, I look at that as being like one energy. And Jupiter expands anything it touches. So Jupiter is coming in and is expanding the energy of this eclipse. And we're going to get into the tarot here in a second. We're going to use the tarot to get some additional information, but honestly, like, we really need to discuss what's going on above first because it's conspiring together to create change. And that brings into the perspective that I think that the eclipse, the hybrid eclipse, I think that that's the theme that is significant also for astrology. So with the hybrid eclipse, you know, depending on where on Earth you are, it will be viewed as either a partial or full eclipse. I think that that astrologically translates into how we perceive the changes. We can either perceive these changes as being challenging, difficult, you know, the universe is conspiring to make my life a lot more difficult, or we can view it as an opportunity to enhance our freedom. And that goes into actually Chiron at 16 degrees in Aries. Now, Chiron is not conjunct the sun and the moon, but it is conjunct Jupiter. And Chiron is the wounded healer. A lot of people look at Chiron as being like the therapist of astrology. So it will highlight anything that needs to be healed. And with it touching Aries, these are very likely going to be personal. They're going to be really personal wounds. And then that goes into Neptune that is in Pisces at 26 degrees. And so I look at Pisces at being at 26 degrees. And it is, and then it's right after that, we have Chiron at 16 degrees. And even though Chiron and Neptune aren't necessarily playing together, I think that Neptune is definitely influencing this. It looks like a astrological train, and so my thought on that is Neptune is perhaps picking up the phone and calling Chiron, and Chiron is then relaying the message to us of like, hey, there's some wounds here that perhaps have been holding you back that maybe aren't even yours. What if they're just illusions? What if they are wounds and beliefs that are holding us back that aren't even about us, that are things that we have inherited or things that we are holding on as true about us, that perhaps were just projection from others. Neptune is the planet of dreams, imagination, but its shadow side is illusions. So that's what came to me when I saw Neptune. A lot of astrologers, I'm sure, might disagree with me and say that Neptune really doesn't have anything to do with this eclipse, but to me, I definitely feel that Neptune is influencing this to a certain degree, where we might have some aha moments on how we view ourself, the perspective of ourself, the relationship with ourself, what wounds are actually ours, what pains are we holding that are actually ours to hold, and what might we be holding for someone else, even if we're not conscious of it. It doesn't help anybody to hold somebody else's pain. It really doesn't. It's not your job, and and we are all busy enough with our own healing. So then the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that just a few hours later, after this eclipse occurs, and after this, the new moon, but not long after, we also have the sun and the moon that will be entering Taurus. And the North Node is already in Taurus at 4 degrees. So the North Node is conjunct the sun and the moon during this eclipse already. And then the sun and the moon are going to be joining the North Node just like 5 or 6 hours later. When Taurus is in the mix, I always look at Taurus as being something that grounds energy, and its themes are wealth, home. It's associated with Venus, so a little bit of luck. It is associated with family. I look at Taurus also as being associated with health. Maybe not quite as much as some of the other signs like Virgo, but I definitely feel that it has that element to it. And with Aries being the energy, the sovereign self being the energy of the eclipse, and then it just transitioning right into Taurus, we're probably going to have some new perspective shifts on ourself and our relationship with ourself that will then translate into tangible and tactical, that's the word that's coming to me, tangible and tactical, so strategic changes in our practical life. So things like our relationship with ourself and how that then affects our relationship with money, because money is one of Taurus's themes. Our relationship with self, and then how that relates to our relationship with others. How does our relationship with others reflect perhaps some areas of opportunity where we could love ourselves more or set better boundaries, or even like how we teach people how we want to be treated. So that might be some things that will come up during this. Our relationship with ourselves and what it is that we need to support our health. So if there's any kind of things that have been coming up for you as far as better ways that we can support our health, or things that need to be shifted in the home, whether that is an actual move into a new home, or that is making repairs or decorating your home, or getting a new roommate situation, anything of that nature, that would definitely be things that might come to a head during this eclipse. The other thing that's very interesting too, that I think affects all of the planets, is Pluto is at 0 degrees in Aquarius, and Pluto entered Aquarius on March 23rd. And it's going to go retrograde on May 1st, and then it's going to slide back into Capricorn on June 11th, and then it will be in Capricorn where it's been for quite some time, for years, because Pluto's a generational planet, so it affects decades, not just months or even a year. It affects big chunks of time, and it's going to stay in Capricorn until January 20th of 2024. So with Pluto being in Aquarius at 0 degrees during this eclipse, 0 is considered to be like the cosmic egg. So it's potential. What is it that you want to plant? Anything that has come up for you since March 23rd. And those would probably be themes that might come back up for you when it goes back into Aquarius on January 20th of 2024. So this time between March 23rd and May 1st, this is giving us a sneak peek of what will happen when Pluto stations in Aquarius for the long term coming in 2024. So if in this last like month or so, that if you've had any kind of major shifts in your home, in your health, in the way that you make money, your career, how you manage your money, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your friends, anything, that is going to be a sneak peek of some shifts and changes that are going to be asked to take place coming in January if they have not already been, if those shifts haven't already taken place. So Pluto being at 0 degrees is kind of setting the backdrop to all of this, and it's just asking, who do you want to be in order to have the life that your heart truly wants? And the thing that's coming to me organically with that is it's really important to know what truly gives us joy versus what gives us entertainment or distraction. Because most of the time, most people just think that we want our life to be easy. But the thing is that if our life was completely easy and we were able to just sit on the front porch and, sip some tea for, the rest of our life, most of us actually wouldn't all be that happy for the long run. It would be good for a short period of time, but there's a purpose that all of us have. And that purpose does require a little bit of tension in order for that growth and those shifts and those changes to take place. And that tension is also the hero's journey that all of us have incarnated on. We are literally created to be creatures of duality. So to either shame ourselves for having a hard time dealing with duality, or to dismiss duality as being some sort of cosmic punishment, or to write off challenge as like it quote unquote shouldn't be here. Don't shit on yourself, don't shit on anyone else, it's not a good look. Any of that is just unnecessary pain that we are imposing on ourselves, that are just amplifying whatever discomfort that we're in. So really, again, this comes back to perspective. It comes back to perspective. So whatever it is that comes up for us, whatever wounds, whatever discomfort is coming up from the past that is echoing into the future, that is informing the kind of trajectory for the future that we can see that we're on, this eclipse, this new moon gives us an opportunity to rewrite that story. The thing is that we just have the work that is in there, because that's the tension, right? The work that has to be done in order for that new story to take place is, it's going to require us to do a little bit of this kind of thing, looking behind us to see what story we have written back then that no longer works for us. If there's something back there that we don't want to have repeated in our future, then it's really important for us to get clear on what that pattern is so that we can do something about it. This is a new moon that has all of the opportunities for a complete identity makeover. You can be and do whatever it is that you want, starting any day, really, starting any day. But there are certain times in which the energies are aligning that really foster that kind of reset more than others. And this is definitely a time where we can hit the reset button. So The other thing that I want to mention too is that Mercury goes into retrograde the very next day. So we were just talking about, like, you know, just glancing in the rearview mirror. You don't have to stare at it. We don't want to go back there. We don't want to live there, but it is important to look back there and just kind of peek and see what is it that really isn't working for us. What pieces of that are gold, and are there certain wounds that lemons that we can make into lemonade. That's really what healing is all about. Healing is about taking what doesn't work for us, the wounds, and then creating some sort of lesson so that we can free ourselves from that past and move forward in with more comfort, more ease, and more grace. So Mercury going into retrograde the very next day is just another way that it's like, if the universe wasn't clear, it's repeating itself. So it's repeating itself in that the energy is going to be moving from Aries into Taurus. The sun and the moon are going to go from Aries into Taurus. So, you know, anything of our relationships with ourselves, how we treat ourselves, our beliefs about ourselves, like all of that is going to translate into making practical changes that are tangible in our real everyday life. And then Mercury going into retrograde around that same time is also saying, just pause and evaluate. Just pause and evaluate and get really clear, because with Pluto at 0 degrees in Aquarius, and with this hybrid eclipse giving us like this doorway where we can have a whole nother perspective if it suits us. Mercury is saying, what is it that you want to say? Doesn't mean that it's time to say it quite yet, but this is the time to start journaling. This is the time that if you are thinking about making big shifts and changes, this would be a really good time to do the research. So if you're thinking about moving to another state, this would be a great time to gather that information. If you're looking about going to school, research your options. If you're thinking about changing your careers, now's the time to start maybe putting out the feelers and seeing who you might want to network with in order to create those opportunities. Now is the time to lay the blueprint for your future. So, I am super excited to see what the tarot might have to say about all this, folks. Like, I mean, woo, right? So, let's see what the tarot has to say. All right, so for those of you who are joining me, I invite you to set the intention that whatever part of this reading that is specifically aligned with your situation, whatever challenges you might be facing, that those messages like pop out to you, like they really are highlighted for you, and you're like, oh, I know that part of the reading is really for me. I invite you to set that intention. All right. So we ask, how might we best leverage this energy of this solar eclipse, new moon in Aries, April 20th, 2023, for our best and highest good? What do we need to know or do? And the thing that's coming to my mind is empowerment. Like, what do we need to really, like, empower ourselves? Okay. All right. So just like when the two planets are conjunct, I look at those energies as being one. When two cards come out in the tarot, I look at those things as being like those energies of those cards as being like one card, like they're conjunct. So the first two cards that came out together. And it's very interesting because we are talking about Aries. Aries is really fiery. And both of these are about the Wands. So we have the Prince of Wands that's come up, and it came up with the King of Wands reversed. I think that this is very much talking about the duality of the fire energy of this new moon solar eclipse alignment. Plus, it's also very interesting because it's a solar eclipse, so we're also talking about the sun, the sun energy. And the sun energy is about our identity. So again, this is just another layer that's talking about the opportunity to up-level, like how we see ourselves, our personas, and who is it that we need to be, who is it that we need to step into as in order to have like this egoic upgrade. And the thing that's coming up with the princes and the king here in the wands is the King of Wands when he's reversed. This is the shadow side. This is one of the shadow sides of like the sacred masculine. So he can be very oppressive, over authoritarian, maybe a little hot-tempered, and that is very much like the shadow side of Aries. But then we have the Prince of Wands. So I think that this is talking about the perspective that we were talking about with the hybrid eclipse. We have the Prince of Wands, which is like that pioneering spirit of Aries. It's that go for the gusto, and he races in, and he's got his wand, and he's ready to fight those battles. But then the King of Wands is the other perspective that we could take on this. We could, if we chose to, allow ourselves to kind of get stuck in the muck and get irritable and start to basically fight the process. Like, things should be easy by now. I've done enough personal development. Like, how much more of this shit do I need to do? Like, that kind of thing isn't really going to help us much. So there is an aspect of this where we're being asked to kind of maybe sink into like the natural curiosity of youth. Just taking a look back there, doing the journaling during the assessment of our situation, our challenges, and ourselves from a place of curiosity, not judgment. And that's what I see with the Prince of Wands. The Prince of Wands is that curiosity. And he's ready. He's ready to go in there and like, let's just do what we need to do. Let's just get her done, right? And then the King of Wands is the one that's just like, he's been around the block a few times. He's pretty tired of this stuff, and he doesn't want to have to work anymore. Maybe me. And so like we could go either route this way. And the cards are saying like the invitation is doing the assessments of where it is that we've been so that we can find out, and so that we can lay the blueprint of where we want to go from a place of curiosity, not shooting, not judgment, and not not pouting, essentially. So these next two cards are really highlighting what the changes, what the essence is around the changes that will probably take place. The Ace of Wands is about personal empowerment. So most likely the perspective shift that we're seeing is going to be translated into, we might really see, and we were talking about this with Chiron and Jupiter and all of that, we might have some real clarity on what it is that has been disempowering us, because the Ace of Wands is about personal power. When it's reversed, it's about lack thereof. And then we have the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is very much about communication, and actually there's a lot about this card that's very much in alignment with Mercury, because it's about communication, it's about thoughts, it's about ideas. So that's what swords, that's one of the themes of the swords, and Mercury has those same themes as well. And so some of the ways that we have been disempowered is through the way that we've been communicated with. When the Queen of Swords is reversed, she goes from being direct to being abrasive, from assertive to aggressive. And so how have we been communicated with in a way that has caused disempowerment? And this is kind of the part that might, be bringing us into the King of Wands piece. This might be the part that's even harder to swallow, which is, how might we unconsciously potentially be passing those wounds on to others through our speech, through the way that we talk? When people say sticks and stones break my bones, but words can never hurt me, nope. That's not true. Word is your wand. The word is your wand. And the word has the power to move masses of people either to freedom and empowerment and independence and, you know, prosperity, or it has the ability to delude, to misinform, to disempower, and to create fear. The word and our spoken speech is incredibly powerful, and I think that that might be some themes that are going to come up, especially in the next month, but probably through January, actually, with Pluto doing what it does. And I think I'll be making a video just specifically on Pluto, because this is a big deal, what Pluto is doing. And with Pluto going retrograde and then going back into Capricorn on June 11th and then going back into Aquarius on January 20th, like it's kind of going back and forth. And what I feel like it's doing, because Pluto, it uncovers secrets and mysteries and things that were hidden. So when it shifts, especially into Aquarius. The last time it was in Aquarius, there was the French Revolution happened. The American Constitution happened during that time. So what I feel like it's doing with this retrograde direct kind of thing is it's like sifting. It's sifting. And so when it's sifting, we might see like all of the muck kind of coming to the surface as it's filtering. But when everything kind of settles down, which might take a minute, we could find real gold. We could find something really, really valuable. So it's worth it. It's worth the effort. So going back to the cards, we have the Prince of Wands. It's all about like, you know, let's take a attitude of curiosity. What might be unsurfaced are ways in which the spoken word, either to us or from us, is actually perpetuating disempowerment. And also the other thing that's coming around that is how we talk to ourselves. That's a big deal too. Like, is your inside dialogue to yourself, is it loving, is it kind, or is it judgmental? And then we go into what is like the summary of this work. And this is good stuff. This is good stuff. This is the cards really telling us like it's worth it, folks. It's totally worth it, because we have the Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles, she has this hawk, right? And this hawk represents her spirit. The spirit is sent as like an emissary to go hunt down that which her spirit desires. These are high desires. These are joy-based desires, not just simple distractions, but these are like the big things that we might desire or need in order to really express our true purpose. This is about the self-made person, and not in the way that we live in a vacuum and that we don't need help or assistance, but really the Nine of Pentacles very much is about the sovereign self and the power of the sovereign self to initiate change and to be able to attract into our sphere that which we truly need in order to build the kind of life that we really want and deserve. And then we have the Three of Wands. So this work, it very well may translate into many of us traveling. We may actually move to a new home, or it may take us to just traveling in general. Also with the Three of Wands is about, it's about new perspectives, new horizons, new shores. The Three of Wands takes the planning from the Two of Wands, which is pretty much what this eclipse is about. It's very Two of Wands kind of energy, because we're laying the blueprint where we're planning for the journey, we're planning for our new story, and then the Three of Wands is like, oh yeah, we're getting on that ship and we are sailing. It is full steam ahead, you know, open up the sails, let's go. So yeah, like this is a very, very exciting new moon solar eclipse. I personally feel very optimistic about it. I think that that probably is showing through in just the way that I'm speaking about it. It's not, all, frilly and easy, but it's definitely worth it. And it's one of those things where I feel like if we put in invest this much energy, we could get this much gain. So it's totally worth it. On that note, if you are needing a personalized reading, or if you would like a inner child healing, or assistance in resolving toxic patterns, feel free to reach out to me at info@BeTheWholeYou with just the letter u.com, or visit my website at www.BeTheWholeYou with just the letter u.com, where you can set up a appointment or even take a look at the podcast that I have on there. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me here. I wish you all the best during this time of shift and change. May we all come to the other side of this gateway with new perspective that will lead us to new freedom. Bye-bye. Have a good one.